Hi, everyone. Welcome to Joseph's Fireside Chat Series. I'm Tom Dreyfus, CEO and co-founder at Josef, and I am very, very pleased to be joined today by Claire Nuske, who is the head of legal operations at Bupa APAC. Welcome, Claire.
Thanks, Tom.
It's really exciting to talk to you. I feel like we've been working together for a few years now, and some of the things that you've achieved at Bupa really are extraordinary. I'm excited for you to share some of what you've learned, some of what you've achieved with anyone and everyone watching. But before we dive right into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in this role, what this role even is?
Yes, it's, well, I'd have to say I'm an accidental legal ops role person, the role that I'm currently working in. Back in the day, I was a practicing solicitor, in-house lawyer, corporate law, financial services, bit of COSEC on the side. And then I rolled in accidentally, kindly, by my current GC and started working in legal ops, which at the time wasn't huge in legal tech. We didn't do a lot of legal tech. It was more the admin support kind of sphere. And then not long after I joined, we started on the tech journey. So it's so new to me, and I'm not a tech person at all. So I've learned so much. I think that's been one of the best things about this role. I like the learning is huge, has been huge for me over the last 2 years.
I feel like that is a common theme for all of the teams we work with, but particularly at the moment. I feel like with generative AI doing what it's doing to the way that corporate legal teams work, we're all on this learning journey together. We have no choice.
Yeah.
If you want to take advantage of some of these emerging technologies, you have to be open to and willing to experiment and to learn and to fail and then to try again. Which sounds a lot like your automation journey at Bupa over the past few years. I'd love to know what that journey has been like, what you have achieved with your workflow automation tools, the focus there, and anything you can share with us about the impact that's had on the way that your team works.
Yeah, well, I suppose our team, the whole journey in the legal tech started in 2022, which I think is when we first started, we touched base with Josef and we trialled your software. For us, it was a toe dipping into the water of what legal tech could start with. We don't really use any other legal tech. We don't use any matter management, where it's not that's what we weren't after that, and we were interested in that. We wanted to start looking at things that we thought would ease workflow for our lawyers. And sometimes there's some people in our team that think that matter management brings in more work, not less work. So we focused on the automation and the workflow. And we trialed for some time because we wanted something that we could manage in-house. We didn't want to have tech team take it over to make it slower, because sometimes that can make it slow. They want to go through and control it, and then we have to get someone, and it costs more as well, because then we'd have to budget for that cost for tech that we didn't have. We didn't have that in the budget. So we tried and looked for things that were low code or no code that we could train our own people up to do, and that could actually result in efficiencies. So in 2022, I think we started very slowly, and I think that's a good lesson, a good way to start. We started very slowly. We focused on certain agreements. And then, as usual with business, things slightly changed. And what we were using certain agreements for, that sort of was pushed to the side, and we went back to more of our basic legal agreements. So the NDAs, the master services agreements, all those kind of critical tools that were high use, high volume usage. And they've been amazing. Like it's been an amazing journey. So we've basically now, 2 years on from a very slow start, and it was a slow start. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And that's a lesson I would tell people: don't rush, take it slowly, because the change management is massive. It's massive for the business. So we started in 2022. We now have over 40 live bots that have automated various things, not just legal agreements, other things as well. And it's sort of rolled itself slowly but surely. It's just rolling itself. So we now get people from the business saying to us, oh, we want to automate this. Can you do it for us?
Mm.
And we do, and we will, and we'll do it as quickly as possible for them, because at the end of the day, it's building the buy-in that we really want. And more people are using it. So, for the NDA, for example, I think we had a procurement team, so not our lawyers, but our procurement team in the business had a major project on. They didn't touch base with us at all, which is great because we don't review NDAs anymore. They churned through, got out 24 NDAs over the period of I think 2 days. Which if they come to legal to do, I mean, the workload for a lawyer who has other BAU on, that's quite huge. And they could just get it out. They don't see it as a roadblock or spending more time or, taking too long. So that was a win. Plus also the time savings is huge for us. So we estimated, we can say that basically 15 hours per month is we save from not using NDAs, not doing them manually and not reviewing them. And so doing them through Josef. So for that, for our BAU, for our lawyers, that's time better spent somewhere else. So it's been really, really good. And we're still building. We're not stopping, and we're getting more requests on a, I'd say weekly basis. We have someone from the business talking to us to automate more of their agreements. Some of it works, some of it we can do, and some of it we can't. So it's that discussion. But what we're seeing is we're doing, from lawyers, we're doing more things about talking about how the other tech works. So the general Microsoft tools that we can use, that we've been able to use with Josef, we're now talking to the business about as well. So Josef can't do this, but you could use this. And so it's that whole dialogue. So it's not just one thing, and we're sort of helping. So that creates a relationship with the business where they see us as a problem solver more broadly. So that's a good thing for us because it's value add.
It sounds to me like a big part of the transformation of the type of work that you're doing in the team is centered around self-service.
Yes.
So going from being a team that just, intakes work and then distributes it and does it internally and then sends it out, to a team that has different touch points for the rest of the business to get access to the help that they need. How hard has it been to change your organization's view of the legal team, to change the way that people think about getting access to legal help on this self-service basis?
I'd say when we first started, it was so hard. It was really hard. And I think we chose a team that probably, I think you choose the people and the right team to make that change with. And thinking back, I probably would have chosen a different team who probably was a more open-minded to change. I think you have to pick the right people. So it was slow going. But what our team did was basically talk to them incessantly. It was the really holding the hand process. It was the feedback. So we had a feedback bot built in to those agreements, but what we found is people would make random comments, but there wasn't real feedback. So what we would do is I would schedule a call with that team and I would talk to them once a week, and then I'd talk to more teams who weren't even using it, and I'd use this as an example. So then I got more teams on board that hadn't actually got the tools but were so keen because they'd seen an NDA and how quick it was easy to use, and it was quick to sort of sort out, and they didn't have to send an email, wait for legal's reply and review and all of that. So they moved it forward. So the teams after that initial team moved things faster. So I think once we got simple solutions, if you choose a simple tool to build that is so easy to use, and they think it's so good when they and you do it for them. It's like everyone loves something being done for them. So if you choose something that is done for them not quick turnaround, easy to do, and it's just efficient, then they're more likely to use it. And then they talk to other people and they said, oh, but did you see, this is what legal's done for us. And so it's building momentum through word of mouth in the business, plus also just talking to the business on a continual basis. You can't win over everyone. Some people just won't want to do it, so you have to move on from those people, I think. But majority, it moves at its own pace through word of mouth if you've got those relationships that are built, and we've made a concerted effort to build those relationships. And I think once that's done, the momentum will roll on its own, and you don't really have to do much. So, I was emailed last week to say, oh, we've got some agreements, we really want to automate them, can you do it? And I was like, yes, let's have a meeting, let's discuss it. And you set parameters and you talk about it, and you get to know what their business is like and how they work and what that agreement output will look like. And that builds a relationship also for our team, rather than the churn of, do something for me, here's the agreement, that was hard work, blah, blah, blah. So we're doing something that's probably it's not as tricky in terms of, it's not the negotiation. A lawyer has to negotiate with your internal client as well. Well, this is just something we're doing for them. So that builds a better relationship as well. So another value add. So when they look at us and they look at the legal team, they're not just looking at, oh, God, they're negotiating, or they take so long to come back to us. Not always, we don't. It just takes, that's their mindset sometimes, or they've said no or whatever in a normal negotiation. Here, legal is just doing something for us to save us time. But it's also good for legal because we can see, we can control, we've got risk measures in place using Josef, and that's better for us. I'm also collecting data that I've never got before, that I wouldn't know of if I hadn't been using Josef, and it's easier. My team's not then having to manage that.
Mm. It sounds like those relationships and making sure that they're strong, that they're the foundation of rolling out some of these changes, has been a really big part of your success. It's something that I've seen play out as you started to introduce generative AI into your ways of working and into the ways in which your legal team interfaces with the rest of Bupa. You started using Josef Q, our second product. Why? I mean, and I say that in the broadest possible sense. I mean, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of noise out there. What is it? What's the problem that you were trying to solve here? Why did Josef Q help you get there?
I think the problem we mostly face is we have got really large documents that are content dense. They're too dense for the business. And so what you'll see is instead of using that material, which is so useful, they will just come back to legal and they will ask that same question via an email. So all that work that our team has done to build up that content, which is so good.
Can you give an example of what kind of content that might be?
So we have recently launched the lawyer's guide to creating content. So basically a marketing material playbook, effectively. It is large. It's 60 pages. People had access to it, but were they using it? No, they weren't. So they were just emailing, here we go, can I do this? Can I do that? And so the time efficiency for our lawyers there is so not useful. So what we decided is, because this is a great tool, like the data, the information in it is fantastic, and all the questions you've ever had, it will answer those questions, right? So what we did is we digitized it with your help, and we first trained it with some lawyers that answer those questions, so moderated it, and then we got some SMEs from the marketing team. So that has now been, shared with the whole of the market unit, and we have multiple marketing teams throughout our businesses, because we've got multiple businesses. They have different marketing teams because it's a different customer base. So, and they don't always talk to one another either. So this one tool, it works for everybody, for all of those marketing teams. So now they have access to it in a digitized format. So they just ask a question, and it's so easy. And so I suppose if you go back to the question is why did we choose Josef Q? And well, it was ease. One, it was ease. We could, the expertise, we could do it ourselves. So that's one thing. We like to control it and upskill our people. So if we had a tool that we could do that for our lawyers, it's all pro. We want them to have skills in AI. We want them to have skills in legal tech or any software. Obviously, we don't force it upon them, but we look for people who are interested in our team, and there's lots of them. And then on top of that, we wanted to have something that was fit for our purpose, which is quite conservative in its approach, secure, isn't going to come up with hallucinations. I've seen a lot of AI products that do something very similar or who are built to do something similar, but the hallucinations are just not, you can't put it out to our business unit. I wouldn't risk it. The risks are too high.
The error tolerance in a lot of legal and compliance teams is understandably low.
Yeah, very low. Like, we don't want a mistake. All lawyers don't want to make a mistake. That's what our job. You don't make mistakes. There's no spelling errors. There's no nothing. So we want something similar. That's our culture, I suppose. So, so that's what we looked at when we saw Josef Q. And I've looked at a lot of products, and some are getting much better. Some are being built, but they're being built by, you know, tech teams in tech companies. That's the ones that I've seen that now don't have hallucinations for their own legal teams. And I've only seen one. That's it, one. Other than Josef Q. And that's built by huge tech companies. So there's not a lot out there. So that's what we wanted. And that builds trust, because if we're using a tool that we legal likes and feel safe with, and we're using, you know, we've got information there that's highly confidential, the business will then use it and feels comfortable with it. And so that's a trust thing again, but that's what we were after. We couldn't, it was not acceptable to have hallucinations in a product, an AI product for us at all.
And so it sounds like that theme of self-service that led you down a particular path in the workflow automation space has now has become a part of the way that you're using Josef Q.
Yes.
Where you're taking this dense content, which is available, but maybe not as accessible as it should be to the rest of the business. And you're creating self-service experiences for people to get the answers that they need. That makes perfect sense to me. But one other thing you just said then was with the trust. And I heard this when you were talking about other teams coming to you and saying, can you automate our agreements? With the trust that you've developed on Josef for workflow automation and now on Josef Q, other business units are starting to look at that and think to themselves, well, how can we do the same thing? And it looks a little bit different to them sending you agreements for you to automate, because with Josef Q, they can actually start to use the platform in their business units. Can you tell us a little bit about that kind of horizontal expansion at Bupa, where you're seeing Josef Q go next?
So we're currently working on a proof of concept with the people team, so our human resources HR team, and they're just going gangbusters with it, with our support. But they've already got tech people sort of built into their team that's separate from the tech sort of single tech team, which is interesting enough. They're embedded in the people team, and they are basically running it. And then they report back to us, and we have fortnightly meetings with them, but they're basically looking at all their policies, knowing how hard it is when you look on an intranet site to find the answers. And they currently have a team of like 6 people answering these ad hoc questions. So it's 6 people, and that's not their day job. This is just, they've been lumped with it because there's no one else. So they answer those questions, plus they do what their BAU is on top of it. So efficiency isn't there as well, and it's not fun to answer the same questions over and over again. So if you think about an employee experience, it's not a good one. So they saw what we did with Josef Q, and I think I had a meeting with them and I showed them it because it was, you know, really good to show because it was so interesting. I think I uploaded the external facing Bupa privacy policy at the time and showed them from scratch how quick it was, and how accurate it was and how easy it was to moderate. And they said, oh, we'd like to try it on a couple of our policies. So they did it separately. They had a little play. And then they said, oh, no, we want to do this across the board. It will save our people time. And so they've had all their policies uploaded now. They've gone through the work at the beginning. I think the most of the work you have to do is at the beginning, getting a document ready. That's the largest component for the work part. And now they're up and running and they're testing it with their SMEs. And so the next step for them is they're going to release it to their HR team to have a really good practice with, and ultimately release it to the whole of Bupa APAC is what they're after. So that's their ultimate game. And because the time savings that they've seen would be huge, and it's just more accessible to employees as well. I mean, if you're on a SharePoint site or an intranet site and you're looking for something, you may or may not get the right answer. So you're searching, the employee experience isn't so good. So this will solve that problem for them as well and save more time and take away those questions that these other employees shouldn't be really focusing on. That's not probably a strategic value there. And they should be focusing on other things that really do assist other aspects of an employee people team function. So I think they're moving really quickly, probably quicker than we thought they would be, but they're loving it. The tech people in that team really love it. So, and they're finding it so easy. And then we're seeing other parts of the business now contacting us wanting to do different things, not all the same. Like, so for workplace relations, they contacted us to say, we've got enterprise bargaining agreements or enterprise agreements. They're very legalistic, lots of sort of legislative style writing. Can we digitise those into FAQs? And I said, yes, we can. There was quite a lot of work to prep that document, and one of our poor paralegals had to spend quite some time on it, but we've done that for them and they're testing it out now, because for people, workplace relations, not all of them are lawyers that are working in that team. So this makes it more accessible for them, which means that not all the lawyers in that team has to do that kind of work. So we can shift that work down to someone who's been in workplace relations for a while but might not be a lawyer but can assist those lawyers more readily. So I think that's another value add. So, and I would suggest that we'll be looking broader and hopefully move into other parts of the business to make things more accessible to employees to help them do their job better. That's the main aim of the game.
It definitely is the main aim of the game. I mean, it sounds to me like you have been breaking down doors left, right, and centre, and making sure that your team gets the benefit of all of this incredible work that you're doing. What advice would you give to other legal ops leaders or GCs who want to do the same thing? What is the thing that you're going to tell them to? How can they be more like Claire?
That's a tricky one. It's a combination. I think I've been very lucky in my role that I actually have a really good General Counsel who has been tech pushing the envelope for us, so really keen. I have an organisation that is very pro digitising, digital advancements, looking at AI. So that's two things. I think if I hadn't had those two things, this would have been a harder process. But then again, I still think with the right tools, you can show that it's not just beneficial to legal. I think if you're going together buying it can't be just beneficial to legal. Now, whether it's just legal tools, so it's an agreement that's been automated, there's still benefit to the business. And if they see it and they feel it, then you're more likely to get support. I think that's one thing. And I think it is also relationship building. If you have good relationships and you're building those relationships, and you probably already have them because you're dealing with these people every day, then you can sit them down and show them. If you can sit down and show someone something that eases their workload, they're more likely to push for you to do it for them. And one thing will then roll into another and to another and to another. So I think it's that kind of slow burn, slow approach, showing them what the benefit is to them. I think that's a really critical thing, and it's a value add. What can legal do for you? what can we do for you? We can do this for you. We're happy to do it. At this point in time, we'll do it for nothing. We'll just do this for you. So it's a present kind of thing, sort of in that way. But it's also, I really enjoy doing it. So, and my team loves building all the legal tech that we're building, and we have really good discussions about how we can do things differently. It's just a different way of thinking, but if you bring the business into that discussion, they love it as well, because they feel like they're part of that transformation as well, which is great. So they're kind of the things that I would think about.
I mean, I think there is some absolute gold in that advice. I'm not sure how much control everyone has over who their GC is or how supportive their organization is of the tech, but ultimately, if you're building relationships in the right way with the right people, you're going to find a way through. You're going to find the right path, the path that sets you up to deliver the kind of value that you have delivered over the past couple of years in partnership with us, but more importantly, in partnership with your legal team and the rest of your business. Claire, it is always such a pleasure to hear from you, to learn from you, to celebrate your successes. Thank you very much for joining me for this fireside chat, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Tom. It's been good.